Hi everyone and welcome to EthisX, the world tomorrow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Today we have with us brother let me repeat that. Almir Colan from Australia. How are you, brother Almir?
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, very well. Very glad to be today with you here.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for making time for this interview. We're going to be diving into some of your favorite topics, which are also my favorite topics, which is focused on the Islamic finance, Islamic investments, and also the world, the economy in general, you know, how it has been affected by this COVID situation, and also how we should look at the future or prepare for the future. So before we go deeper into that, maybe, please share with us a little bit about your background, what you have been doing, what you're focused on today. Go ahead, please.
My background is I'm involved in Islamic finance. I run a center that does consultancy and education and also teach at various places, institutions, and so on. At the same time, I'm with a few friends of mine. We have a company, Olive Investment, that invests in Australian healthcare. We run clinics, and also we are in the process of starting online health clinics here in Australia.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for a very concise background. And the Australian Centre for Islamic Finance has been around for 9 years now, close to 10 years. That's a very long time. How has it changed from the beginning, in terms of your objectives as well as your activities?
In the beginning, I think, like many Islamic finance professionals, you start when you learn about certain prohibitions and things of that nature. You get fascinated with the new world of Islamic finance. Then as you grow, you realize what Islamic finance actually wants is to embed spirit of entrepreneurship in the community. It wants business leaders who will step up, do something, change what's on the ground. So they will create the jobs for other people. They will solve some things in society. So we have evolved into an organization that offer all of the different advices. We also do a lot of things to basically help people start and run their businesses in the way that is consistent with our values and ethics.
Right. So it's somewhat a business. Is it like an incubation, acceleration, consultancy for businesses and startups?
Usually, it is all of that, but every business is different. Some businesses, as you said, they need a consultation. Some businesses are already up and running. They might want to know if what they are doing is Sharia compliant or it's done in a proper way. And other people, they have different problems that you need to solve, financially structure certain things and arrangement. So we provide mainly consultancy advice, training, these kinds of things to encourage business people to step into that arena of business and try, give it a go, and not be held back by sometimes misplaced belief that, for example, Islam doesn't want you to be active, working, contributing, which is exactly what Islam wants you to have, Islamic lifestyle in all aspects.
All right. Alhamdulillah. I mean, I assumed based on the name that it was more focused on Islamic finance education, but it's really great to know that it's beyond that, and the education part is, I assume, embedded in the business advice and the business activities that these companies undertake with your guidance or with your support, right?
That's right. Business education can only go so far. It's like teaching somebody to swim without putting them in the swimming pool. How much can education do, and what sort of education is that? You need to do it. You need to try it. You need to learn from you trying. And that's why I run other business as well, because it wouldn't be fair for me telling other people how to do these kinds of things and never do it and try it myself. So it's all about doing stuff as you are doing, and you know that when you do things, when you try something, whether you succeed or you fail, there is a lesson there that makes you better.
Yes, indeed. In fact, this is a topic that really resonates a lot with me because I see there's so much brain power and effort and money in academia, and especially even in Islamic finance. And somehow so little of it actually goes out into the real world and makes a difference. And you know, we have as we both run our businesses, we figure things out as we go. But a lot of different you know, research papers and efforts have gone into solving problems that we are solving on the go. It's just that, you know, they're stuck somewhere, stored somewhere on the shelf or in somebody's hard drive. Yeah, so Alhamdulillah, it's really great to know that. Now, jumping to a slightly different point, which is about the condition of the world today. You know, can you give some perspectives on, you know, the COVID situation? You know, is it something that is meant to wake humanity up? Is it something, you know, that, you know, we look at with some despair, or is it something that we look at with hope? You know, whatever you feel like sharing, go ahead.
As our Prophet ﷺ told us, every situation is a blessing for a believer. It's not at all about situation. It's about how you respond to the situation. So when things are going great for you in your life, you need to be thankful for that. And you need to be grateful. If things are not going so great as we see today, we need to be patient. And the patient in the sense of being actively patient. We need to appreciate what we have now. Now, economy is on the pause. We have a very deadly virus going around. So at the moment, economy across the whole world is geared towards stopping the virus spread. So we have major slowdown. This is much different from any other financial crisis. If you remember, 10 years ago, we had the GFC. That affected us, and many other crises in general affected demand size of economy, where people they lost psychologically confidence, they lost the jobs, they couldn't simply buy what is available there. This crisis is different. Economy is on the pause, but mainly from supply side, meaning that it's much more difficult to produce things. So it's either more difficult or more expensive. Now, when you look at the response of most of the governments, they are trying to spend money, give people handouts, write them checks, and do everything to stimulate demand size, because usually that's what you stimulate in the crisis. You want to enable people to go and spend. But there is very little that governments or anybody can do to stimulate supply side. So now, as we go forward, what is critical is to deal with underlying conditions that are preventing businesses to jump back into it and start producing, to bring that back. And this is where I think as economy is now in the slowdown phases, what is critical for us is to invest in the human resources, in people's capabilities and relationships that businesses have with the workers in order to facilitate faster jump back in. Once these conditions are a little bit removed, so we can go back producing. And because otherwise, the current situation that produces massive level of debt, massive unemployment, it doesn't make sense. The only way to deal with this is to focus on the supply side of economy. How do we actually get back into it as soon as we can?
All right. Yeah, I think that's a very sharp perspective, and really, we're trying to stimulate demand and consumption seems to be a very blunt tool. Although the handouts maybe are needed for survival, yeah, but survival alone is not going to get us out of this, right? You know, we need to survive to reach to another point later on. Right?
Look, that is necessary. That is very important. There are a lot of people who are suffering. Definitely, we all, as a society and individual, must exercise maximum level of generosity, and that's the most important thing to remember. On your personal human level, generosity is number one thing. But don't forget, government, what they are doing is going heavier and heavier in debt. So the increase of the debt will have an effect later on. So what you want to do here, you want to deal with the core reasons in the background of this crisis.
Yeah. How doctor's getting excited. Yeah. So you were mentioning earlier about how, you know, your institution talks to businesses and supports businesses. So what advice are you giving businesses and startups right now?
Look, right now, when I talk to the businesses, I see that it's a time where, as I said, economy is almost like as we enter month of Ramadan and everything is on the pause. Economy, when it is in the recession, it means that it's on pause. Just like we are fasting, economy is fasting. So now it's time for business to, for example, reflect on what they're doing. Strategically, how we are competing, where are our supply chains, for example, how far they are, what are we producing locally, what are we depending on somebody overseas. So from strategic point of view, you want to see and you want to look more around yourself. How can I be more self-sufficient around where I am so that I don't depend too much on the outsides? Also, your number one assets are your people. A lot of people are now investing in different kinds of training, upskilling. In our organization, we have started also looking at technology very much. How do we deliver services, specifically in healthcare, for example, where the patients, they have a need to see a doctor. So how do we integrate the technology like we are using Zoom or any kind of video conferencing with the rest of the technology in the health clinic in order to bring our clients, everybody together? And and I think this is where business needs to have a more strategic kind of view, understanding the new reality that this might start happening more and more as we go in the future. So what we need to do in order to sort of manage that transition into the new realities of this world.
All right. So use this time to take stock and use this time to enhance your own internal value, mainly through your own people and also technology, right? Those are the key points, I think, the takeaways.
That's right. Strategic thinking in terms of your business, where you are producing, how you're producing, technology and all the other tools that we see now more and more in demand, and your people. This is the number one thing, because it's so easy, especially to lose people, to fire people, and then to jump back into when things ease. How do you get those people back? Those people have a knowledge, experience. So you need to create some way to find a way to keep relationship with your staff.
Yes, fully agree with that. And it is a challenge for many, companies with low cash flow or no cash flow. Sometimes, how do you keep your people? And if you lose your people, then what are you left with, right?
Absolutely.
Different businesses, of course, have different assets, but people definitely is always a key asset. Now, you mentioned,
and it's just 1 second on that one. Sometimes we think, how am I going to have this conversation with the people? I think we need to be honest. People understand. Maybe you need to cut the hours or cut the rate. Everybody understands, but I think as long as there is a discussion, there is a conversation going on, decisions are taken in a spirit of the partnership, and we are in this together. People are quite understanding. If business cannot afford certain things, that's what it is. But as long as we always keep that relationship with the staff in our four minds.
Yeah, keep it respectful and open and honest. Yeah, right. Alhamdulillah. Now you mentioned, the current situation or the new normal, or the way things have changed. And earlier on, you talked about technology. So, other than technology, what else would you advise businesses to do in terms of to be more ready or more prepared for this crisis and for the future?
I think one thing that businesses need to worry a lot in this time is cash flow. That's the oxygen that kills the businesses. You can have the most profitable business, but if you make commitments that are just way over logic and reason, that cash flow issue can strangle any business. So I see a lot of business. They make a lot of commitments. They plan a lot of things. They take a lot of equipment on lease. They take a very expensive real estate for sale or lease. A lot of stuff. They overcommit themselves. So you have to monitor your growth and your cash flow, because if you overcommit, if you start very aggressively expanding, what will happen is you will start then your cash will cost you a lot more. And eventually, the greatest business, if it runs out of the cash, it's like the greatest athlete running out of oxygen. It cannot happen. So be very careful of your expenses. Monitor those expenses. Don't enter into the buying sprees these days, even if the things are on special and you think I need to upgrade everything. Don't be mindful. I was just analyzing with some friends. They were buying some business at the moment, and we were analyzing the numbers. And assumptions, for example, that they made were assumptions based on the last 3 years of performance. Where when you look at the numbers, you need to look at, for example, what's happening with the business last 3 months, last month, because bear in mind, every business will need at least a year to 2 years to recover from this, to get to the full swing of things. So just because you lift now COVID-19 restrictions doesn't mean back to normal. It will take, at least my estimate is 2 years for businesses to get back to normal, to pre-COVID-19 levels.
Wow. Yes, 2 years is a long time, and you need to be able to, to last that period, until things are normal or almost normal, or to a new or different kind of normal. Yes, indeed. I can share a little bit for Ethis. Cash. I mean, I'm a business development, growth mindset kind of founder, right? And along the way, more senior people and my partners have always told me, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. That's the three most important things. And it took me some time to really accept that or understand that. And I think now today I truly appreciate this importance of cash flow. Yeah. Moving on to a different angle, because we don't have much time, unfortunately, although I'd love to speak to you for a long time. How about Islamic finance, right? Let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about today and the future. What role do you see it currently playing, and what role should it be playing, or can it be playing in this new economy today?
Well, it's very clear for me for some time that Islamic finance must focus on producing things and solving the real life problems. This is where the essence and the focus must be. For example, look at the COVID-19 crisis. People now say, what can Islamic finance do? How can we help in the COVID-19? Well, if we were truly prepared, you would see a healthcare center already established before that are researching vaccines and making different kind of medications. You would have seen a factory that can change to make respirators or the masks or anything like that. So we have to understand that you have to be Islamic finance is connected with Islamic economy in a sense of it is the driving engine, the engine of growth for economy. That economy must be producing economy. That economy must produce things and employ people. So Islamic finance really, if we want to see anything out of this, is that it starts investing in yourself. I say we need to have a goal where, especially our young people, and if you look at the Muslims, 1.8 billion people, there is almost 500 to 600 million people who are youth. If you really want to solve something, especially in terms of Islamic finance tool, we need to encourage people where out of let's say 5% of our people, they should employ, they should start businesses that employ 5 people. So I usually say that we have to have at least 5% of the people, maybe 10% of the people starting businesses in our economy. And they're starting the businesses that employ another 5 people. So I think if we can orient ourselves, our education system, our business system, put them all together where somebody is given a shot to start a business, more and more our education, whatever you do, maybe you are an engineer, maybe you are healthcare worker, psychologist, sports person, whatever, media, you are somehow taught at the same time how to start a business. So out of hundreds of doctors, 5 will start clinic. Hundreds engineer, 5 will start companies that produce something. And then those companies will start employing others. I think that is the point of that riba is prohibited and the trade is allowed. Trade, and in a sense that you need to produce those things, then you need to sell them. That is for me entrepreneurship. That is what most of our countries and any country in reality, Australia, that's what Australia needs to focus on its own. How to produce things, and especially, for example, in Australia, how to produce things that are of higher values, not just very simple things, more complex manufacturing, added value services. So it's not just barely exporting things and just very, very small basic manufacturing jobs.
All right, I understand your points, but I just want to understand a bit more. Okay, fine. Islamic finance, the objectives, like you shared, I fully agree with you there. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it goes back to the objectives of Sharia, right? But getting more people to do businesses and getting them to employ more people within their new businesses, how does Islamic finance fit in?
So, for example, I'll give you a very specific example how you can do that. So, for example, when we started our fund, that invest, we put the targets. Now we are still not there. We are just a few years, but we said that one part will go for this low risk investment, then the medium, but then part of the funding will go to the high level risk investment. So, for example, if you look at I visit many Islamic banks, many Islamic financial institutions, investment institutions, and I often ask them, how much of your funding goes into the startups? How much of your funding go into the high level risk activities, research, something of that sort? So I think most of us, and I can see that when you manage money, you are very risk averse. You are worried what's going to happen. And I think that's where the fear can sometimes paralyze a lot of entrepreneurs, is that they got so used to just buy the asset, lease the asset, buy this, sell immediately, I know what I'm getting. It doesn't matter what happens to you. So risk is something that a lot of people are afraid until you start taking the risk. When you go to the fishing, or when you go into the jungle and you want to go for the hunt, you want to go for adventure. You have your tools and you are ready. You have your adrenaline pumping. You are not scared of going into the jungle because there is adventure. So that's how we need to look at the business. Business is adventure. And if we get rid of that sort of fear, we will go and chase that excitement of doing the things. So that needs to be mixed. People who are doing and people who want to do these things. It's, again, not theoretical exercise. You need to create similar to what they have in the US Silicon Valleys, but of many different areas where you will mix people and they will learn from the real entrepreneurs, and they will be encouraged in their presence to start. And so we start slowly growing like that. It has to be very practical, connected, where money is circulating. And that's Islamic economy principle number one. Let the money circulate with the knowledge, go to the different hands, find its ideas, and those ideas in a genuine way, not that somebody picks the winners. No, it goes into genuine way, picks the right winners because they have a right idea, and the right idea and the best idea win. If we start doing that, you will see eventually people coming up with the best ideas, and economy, feeds off these ideas in the long run.
Yep, that's brilliant. At Ethis, this is something that we are very passionate about. And although most of our activities so far has been in real estate in Indonesia, building social houses, I mean, you know what we do. But moving forward, and in the past few months, we have been looking at this area, very, very seriously. And wanted to get your input on this before we end. I realize what you're saying is very important, but the willpower and the comfort level of existing Islamic financial institutions to actually do it, is, I would say, very much lacking still today. Maybe there's greater realization, but the actions are still not there yet, right? So Islamic venture capital, angel investment, microfinance, helping small businesses, very, very underserved in Islamic finance, right? I think that's one of some people believe that's one of the biggest shortcomings of the Islamic finance industry today. So what I did see is that some of these large institutions are able to allocate large amounts for charitable purposes, right? Whether it's CSR, other forms of charity. And what I'm trying to consider or talk to these people, to these different institutions, is that, okay, let's say one bank can allocate $300,000 in what you call it, in CSR, right? Just giving it away. So instead of doing that, put it into a program to support startups, right? And make it a component of equity, or a zero interest loan, a Kad Hasan for small businesses, micro SMEs, and then embed some features such that some or most of this money comes back to the pool and goes back out again. So every year, 10 Islamic banks put in $300,000. We have 3 million, right? And every year they add in another 3 million, and that money, snowballs and recycles. This is just an idea that we've been contemplating. Do you think this would be an easier approach? Because trying to push them to invest, there's so many hoops to jump through, and to get there is a very painful process sometimes.
So I think it's a very noble. I think it's a very important that we get these banks and the institutions and everybody in reality involved. This is everybody's problem. This is everybody's future. I think when I think of Islamic economy in general, I see several points of economy that are very distinct. And that's why when I look at Islamic rules regarding different prohibitions and different things, why, for example, we are not allowed to make money from interest, but we are allowed to, or selling money, but we are allowed to make money from selling things. And that's, for me, it's very clear that Islam separates what is humanitarian, charitable types of work. And these are the area where Islam does not want to make a profit, don't want to encourage incentives, and areas where you are producing things where Islam allows that we compete. So these two areas are quite distinct. And in one area, you have people basically in need. They can't help themselves. It's exercise in you giving, generosity, and things of that nature. In the other area, what you want to do, you want to reward the best thinking, the best mindset, the best solutions, and things of that nature. So I would have these two areas very separate. Okay. I wouldn't do this or that. I would have it separate, because you need to consider those people who are helping, they're not going to become entrepreneurs because you're encouraging them. They can't help themselves. So they just need to be helped at that moment. So there is a group of people like that. On the other side, there are people who might need encouragement. Somebody might need mentoring. Somebody might need a wealth. A lot of tech company needs different kind of things. Some are less cash intensive businesses. So I would say that a lot of the dedication needs to happen in a pure commercial terms, on the pure commercial basis, because the last thing you want is to create a mismatch between sadaqah and mixed commercial aspects, and then again pick a winner and it become a charity again. That is what killed the communism, by the way, because the government used to pick winners, money went there, and it didn't encourage real innovation. So these kind of ideas, very important for any incubators, any kind of entrepreneurial setting, is that these ideas and businesses must succeed because they are the best on their own. Just like you go Silicon Valley, they're not going to say, oh, he's my friend, that's why I'm investing. No. His idea is the worst idea I've seen. I'm not going to invest anything, but we'll go, have a dinner after that as a friend. So you need to be very brutally honest about these kind of things. So if something makes sense, let's invest in that, So this is how I would see, and, probably starting by small things, organizing different ideas, seeing why is this important for the country to grow. Great example, if you look at, for example, these days, in some of our countries. I can tell you examples from Bosnia, from Turkey. I recently visited. My daughter studied there. When I went there, they realized that we need to be producing different things by ourselves. So I think if we look at these successful ideas and push ourselves in that direction, we will end up with a solution that greatly benefit our economy.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that last few points. I think this is a challenge sometimes that is overlooked, where because the money is charity in nature, the commercial element is not made a priority and it's not robust enough. Whereas if it were an investment fund, then that component will be very strong. So we need to combine the mindset of managing an investment fund, even though the source of fund or the fund is actually charity. That potentially can create a solution.
Absolutely. It's very important to be clear what you are doing at that stage. Is this a business thing I'm doing, or is this I'm helping somebody? Because they are completely different expectations.
Yeah, understand. Alhamdulillah. All right, we've reached the end of this session, and I think it's been very, very insightful. I've learned a lot myself, and I believe the viewers and the listeners as well. Truly appreciate your time. And before we go, any parting shots from you? Anything at all that you want to share with the audience? It's a mix of some high-level individuals, business leaders, as well as a large group of young people who are trying to figure out, what they can do and what they should be doing right now. All yours.
I think it is very important to take this time to really think about yourself. Try to help in your community. Try to connect with your community. Be close to your parents, to your elderlies in the community. Learn. Be patient. Understand there is lots of things in life are waiting for you. We are waiting all for young people. You are our future. Learn before you are put in a position where you need to lead, and find yourself a great mentor. Try to be productive. Engage yourself in any meaningful work, and inshallah, the future is bright. We are counting on you, inshallah.
Ameen, inshallah. Thank you so much. And with that, we reach the end of today's EthisX session. Thank you so much, Brother Almir, for making time to share this information with us and all your opinions and insights. We look forward to having you again, maybe in the near future.
Thank
Take care
very much.
and Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Kareem to you too.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.